Over the past few months, as many of you guys have seen, I've been posting quite a bit of content around Cyberpunk 2077 and its developer CD Projekt Red. A lot of really awesome stuff has been happening with this game, especially now as we enter into the final stretch, with just 4 months remaining until its release date. And it seems like somebody from CD Projekt did recognize this, as this past Christmas Eve, I received a very mysterious and a very interesting package from them. Almost like a little bonus Christmas present. So in this video, what we're going to be doing is opening this package and looking at its very interesting contents with an explanation of what exactly they are. If you guys want to keep up to date with Cyberpunk 2077, or even more specifically the Cyberpunk 2077 ARG, you can subscribe. I certainly will have a lot more coverage of this game, especially as we now get into the final stretch until release. Otherwise, looking at the package itself, it did graciously show up onto my doorstep on the morning of Christmas Eve. The package itself being fairly nondescript, all I took off was some of the identifying information. And as we start to dig into this one, we find something very interesting. Another package. I'm not sure if there's something wrong with me, but I had a lot of time separating the first package from the secondary package. But once I did manage that, you can see some pretty cool custom tape from CD Projekt themselves, which is definitely cooler than Amazon's tape. On the backside of this package, we have something pretty interesting. A collection of carefully bubble-wrapped black envelopes that do have some mysterious numberings on them, as well as several envelopes coming in different sizes and some having numbers while others don't. But before we tackle that mystery, breaking through the otherwise very interesting tape and going into the main package, we find, and wait for it, a canvas bag. Evidently, the great canvas shortage from 2018 did not carry over into 2019, and fortunately, bags like this can continue to be produced. The bag itself is pretty cool, and we'll come back to it, but inside there are also a variety of other goodies. 3 sets of Johnny Silverhand themed stickers that are pretty awesome. Very meta, and honestly something I feel like you'd see in-game also, and we likely will. But even further, a variety of pins that are Cyberpunk themed, and to cap it all off, a nice lanyard to go along with it. Now this stuff is pretty awesome, but I don't need 3 sets of stickers, so the natural next step, with it being this season after all, is for me to give some of this stuff away. I'll have full details on the giveaway at the end of this video, but otherwise that is my first ever haul video for YouTube, and it really wouldn't be a haul video without actually posing with the epic canvas bag that I did receive. It actually is a pretty cool bag. But the next part, which I'm sure many of you are quite curious about, is what on earth is in those mysterious black envelopes. Shifting back over to these envelopes, they are pretty mysterious. This set includes 5 large envelopes, 4 of which are numbered 1 through 4, 1 of which has no numbering on it whatsoever, and 3 smaller envelopes, one having both a 1 and a 2, and then one having 3 and 4. So opening these, I made a variety of discoveries. One, I'm absolutely horrible at opening mail. I don't know what it is, but I actually really struggled opening some of these envelopes. But also, it seems like this was a variety of riddles. Opening up the large unmarked envelope, we got this QR code that was very mysterious and incomplete, the center section seeming to be some kind of puzzle or riddle that had to be solved in order to actually complete the QR code and then probably scan it, gaining access to something. But separately, the envelope labeled 1 was titled Johnny and Alt, and did have a fairly mysterious cipher under it, seemingly having the correct spacing for certain words, but the letters were jumbled up. In the second envelope, we of course found Clue 2, which seemed also to have some kind of riddle, this time being around languages and certain countries, or rather how something was not the language of the corresponding country. The third clue was a number sequence, which you had to figure out the next iteration of, and the fourth and final clue had some kind of written riddle on it, but also an interesting code directly under it. That was the contents of those larger packages. All put together, it certainly seems like there are certain clues to a larger mystery, and in the smaller packages, hints were provided to aid in solving the larger problem, to figure out which each individual clue's solution was. Although, I wasn't the only person to receive this. In fact, several content creators and community members around Cyberpunk 2077 received almost identical packages. You may have seen some of their initial videos or live streams over the past week or so. I'm gonna have links to all of their channels down below. As you could probably imagine, pretty much all of them are a great source of Cyberpunk 2077 information, news, and even some details you can't find elsewhere. They received their packages slightly before mine, and for that I'm going to blame the New York mail system. And as such, I've been diligently working as a community to solve all of these clues, figure out what this end solution is. And they have been successful. So if you're impatient and just want to see where this all led, I will have the final clue and its solution at the timestamp above. as well as what comes next in this whole process. So as I mentioned again, this wasn't figured out by me. By the time I received my package, much of this had already been discovered. So I'll have links to some of the live streams on the corresponding channels, as well as a really well done Game Detectives write-up, which several members of also participated in some of these live streams. So when going to envelope 1 and this first clue, that being Johnny and Alt, here there was seemingly some sequence of words that would fill in these spaces. Originally trying to do this myself, I thought it was what letters were actually here, just being rearranged, but in fact, after using the hint, you could see that it takes you to the song Never Fade Away, which all of the letters here would actually spell out. So in reality, the solution was actually to substitute one of the lyrics from the song into these spaces, as it's one of the only lyrics that actually fits and flows here. That being, there is a canvas with 2 faces. For the second clue, we did have the cryptic one going along with languages and certain countries. The trick to this one was the end goal was to spell out a certain word. The first is referring to the first letter of that word, the first letter being in Wales, but not actually being in Welsh. The clue suggested using Google Translate, which leads to the ultimate solution that, so more or less for Wales, you're comparing the English way of saying Wales to the Welsh way of saying Wales, which is Cymru. You compare which letters are in Wales that aren't in Cymru, and that gives you some potential first letter options. Going through the list, you are left with a variety of letters, which, if you then combine them in the specific order, can spell out 7, which seems to be the second clue. This third clue is actually pretty interesting. It's a fairly simple concept, finding the last number in the set of 4, which I'm sure we all have done in school at some point or another. The clue in this one is spell the numbers out loud, which gives you a fairly easy solution. If you spell out 19, the first and last letter of that is N. Spell out 28, the first and last letter of that is T. And if you continue this with all of the numbers, it will give you this list. So it seems like a fairly simple one, like the 4th number would be the solution, that with 83, as it does start and end with E. But a couple of oddities. One, there's actually a different number in between 19 and 38. But separately, the actual solution for this one is 102. Which does apply to the rule, but it definitely isn't the 4th number in this set. I'll explain why we know that later on, but I don't know if there's some other component to this puzzle that wasn't necessarily discovered, or if there's another factor that wasn't being considered. We know it's the right answer, but I don't know exactly why 102 is the right answer unless you are just skipping numbers randomly. But then what is easily the most complex of all of the puzzles and clues is envelope 4. It does read, there's a clock in the archives, a normal clock with numerals 1 to 12 around the clock face. Someone is taking to sticking words or numbers over these numerals and moving the hands to show the time indicated by these, what time showed on the clock. And then under that riddle is a sequence of letters. And the hint on this one was to sum up the numbers from the ciphertext. As I mentioned, this was without a doubt the most difficult and the most complicated. You'd actually see in the live stream, I'll have a timestamp link down below, as they come to the revelation of them figuring it out. They were about to cut the live stream. This particular one was definitely a group effort and trying a variety of different things, but the solution to this is, first, to take the letter string at the bottom of the clue page and directly under it write the numbers 1 to 12 in written form. These two will now line up perfectly. Then convert all of the letters in both of these to their corresponding numbers. So for example, A would be 1, B would be 2. You'll then get these two fairly long number lists, and credit to Game Detectives, that is where I'm pulling these images from. You then add the top numbers to the bottom numbers and get a whole new set of numbers. You then convert those numbers back into letters using the same method prior, and you get next redecode the rest. Another string of letters that you would have to literally repeat that exact same process for. This had to be done 4 times in total. It would give you these 4 strings of letters, saying next redecode the rest, once more again, now you're done. And if you take the first letter of all 4 of those, it does spell out noon, which seems to be the solution for this stage. Yeah, that one was definitely a little bit harder than the rest. So now with these 4 solutions, there's a canvas with 2 faces, 7, 102, and noon. We move over to the QR code. And this part is actually fairly simple. You're going to take these numbers, that being 7, 102, and 12 for noon, and actually just blacken in those numbers on the QR code. There's a canvas with 2 faces, was a little bit more complicated, but it seems like what had to be done for this one was actually use the letters from the word to. But with the QR code in hand, it wasn't as difficult to figure out as there were a lot of T, W, and O's. Once you blacken in all of those, you can scan this QR code, which will take you to this website, netwatchncpd.com/archives, where we then have to submit our credentials to actually log in and get to see these archives. But even just in the background, you can see a lot of interesting things. It seems like we're in the archives page where there's also a main, recruitments, reports. You can see a list of some of the submitted reports in the background, some being labeled as verified, and in fact most have that label, one of them being listed as corrupted data and some being not verified at the very end. And at least as of right now, that is where we're left. It has been described how the next step, getting those login credentials, will not happen until some point in 2020. So now we do play a bit of a waiting game, but either way, this whole thing is really cool. A lot of credit goes to the guys over at the Game Detectives and several of the other YouTubers to participate in this. As I mentioned earlier, I actually received my package after this was all figured out, but I was talking to them somewhat as they actually started to open some of these packages and figure out which each clue alluded to. Either way, this is really cool by CD Projekt. This is a great way to build hype around this game, and this mysterious ARG has been going on for a while now. As we approach the final stretch, it does get me hopeful that the end reward will be something like a gameplay trailer or something pretty cool. In general, I imagine there'll be some more trailers soon anyway. But as far as the giveaway does go, I'd love to mail some of you guys some of those stickers and some of the pins. To enter this one, it's going to be really simple. I just tweeted out this, which in and of itself is pretty crazy. I mean, it's under 4 months now until we can play this game. All you have to do is retweet that tweet. I'll select 3 of you at random and you will get your reward in the mail. I'm going to be selecting a winner in 5 days from this video, so if you're watching it a little bit after the fact, you still do have time. I'll respond to my original tweet when the winners are chosen. And I'll be messaging you on Twitter, trying to DM you to get the mailing or shipping information. Either way, as always, again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A huge thank you to CD Projekt. This was a pretty cool little Christmas present or surprise Christmas gift to receive. Even though it wasn't originally intended as that, it did work out in the end. Hopefully you guys found this video informative, and hopefully you're excited for Cyberpunk 2077. But with that, I hope to see you guys all next time. Later.